Good morning, Mr. Patil. I want to say something if you don't mind. Of course not. Please tell me. What's up? How are you doing? Uh, and if you can hear me, let me know so we would begin. Oh shit, I didn't pull the plug on LinkedIn. Okay. It's really inspiring to see your persistence. It's almost 120 days, but you didn't even miss one day. Yes, Mr. Patil. Thank you so much. It's basically, people ask me that, hey man, why don't you do it once a week and it'll get more views instead of doing it every day and getting less views. And I said, it's not the views that we are going for, because I get lakhs of views when I write an article in just like a couple of hours. It's not about the views. It's basically the routine is uh, the game. The game is the routine. We want to build a routine and we want to see that routine actually compounding our rewards. Whatever we are being able to do, the routine needs to bring whatever it brings. So it's not the views, it's not the money, right? The stream and all. It's basically the routine. That's everything for me when it comes to thinkers
Is
frequency.
the
So uh, we're glad, we are very lucky that we've been able to follow this routine, right? And thanks to you, because you've been from the start, right? I guess pretty much from the start. So uh, amongst the first few episodes, you were there. So it's not just me; it's our routine. And you might have also noticed, Mr. Patil, how we've grown as our discussions have happened, right? Yeah, I was there on the first episode. So how the first episode was and how we've sort of developed an understanding. And that understanding now is just incredible because we are able to look at things which I at least wasn't able to look at before, or I wasn't able to understand these things before with as much clarity, or I wasn't able to understand, or let's say predict things with as much accuracy. Just look at our predictions, right? uh, it's just amazing what we've been able to see. And it's so another thing that I see now is after this 1 hour, nothing on the internet, no written material or no insight, so to speak, on the internet really surprises me because we've actually uh, gone very deep with whatever we are discussing, and we have a free flowing discussion, so it's not that refined. So we have our unfiltered thoughts converge, right? So these LinkedIn articles or these Twitter pages, they don't really bring anything startling. Oh, I did not know that. That rarely happens now, right? So everything is just we feel that okay, we are at the top of this. We're pretty getting, and that's only because we are regular. Let's say if we stop doing this for 3 4 days, right, it will not stay the same is what I believe. So the routine is the whole game here, nothing else. And even the investments, which have come because of the routine, because we've been following history like a story and a process. Whatever investments I've made following this have been like solid, right? Very solid. And because they are backed by history, and they are also hedged in a way that even if the market falls by like 70% tomorrow, right, it's not gonna affect me as much. So that's also an intelligence that we've developed. So I guess you can hear me. Yes, you can. So let's begin. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! But before we go, gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition. The sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug or glass or tank, a chalice or stein, a canteen jug or flask or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like hot water with some black pepper in it. And here we go. Beautiful. Sublime. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we're in this together. That's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Tremors in Tech Incorporation as Trump rocks the H-1B dream. Well, I've got a lot of messages from people on LinkedIn and Substack saying that, hey, we'd like to read your opinion on the H-1B dream. I'm flattered. I'm flattered. But to be honest, I have a very unconventional view on the situation. So when it comes to H-1B or when it comes to Indian immigration to US, I've always been anti it, unfortunately. I think a country like India or any country will not flourish if it's exporting its richest, most affluent, even most educated people year on year on year. So if the most educated, most affluent, so nobody who goes to US is poor in India. That's a myth that hey, I didn't have money when I went to US. Everybody had money because that's why they went to US. It's not cheap. It was never cheap, right? So affluent people, educated people, if they are bailing out on India and if they're finding every opportunity to bail out on India, that signals something very wrong. Very, very wrong. Now, that signals a long term pessimism about the country. It's not just the short term pessimism, it's the long term pessimism about the country. And that pessimism, if it's coming from the top of the pyramid, that signals even bigger problems with the country. So, from the H1B thing, in FY24, 2,19,659 H1Bs were issued, right? Out of which 1,50,000 were from India. So just 1,50,000 people just went to US on H1B, just Indians. Everybody else, China, equal population, it was a 31,000, right? So Indians really, and it's not just US if you look at it, Indians find a way to escape the country in all ways possible. It's not just US, it's not Europe, it's Eastern Europe. People are finding ways to go to Europe through Latvia, right? It's not even Latvia, it's Russia. So Indians are actually enrolling in Russian military so that they could emigrate to Europe. It's incredible the amount of effort Indians invest to actually leave the country, right? If you look at Canada, the whole Khalistani movement is sprung up so that they can claim amnesty as a religious minority persecuted in India, so that they could actually, you know, uh, be in Canada. So the lengths to which Indians go to actually escape the country is a real problem for India. For India. Okay. So that has always been something that I've been bothered about. Now I come from a good family, lucky family. Uh, I never thought of leaving the country because I think it's a worthy goal to actually do something in your country itself, right? So, but that's not a sentiment which is shared by a lot of people. Now coming, that was my perspective on India. So even if you look at Indian babus, the bureaucrats, the ministers, and so on and so forth, their kids are settled abroad, right? Their kids are studying abroad. They are like blue blood. What what kind of a growth can you expect from a country whose ruling class is sending its people abroad? Isn't it amazing? Like Mr. Jaishankar, a very good external affairs minister, his kids are studying abroad or kids are living abroad. I mean, what kind of, skin in the game do these people have when their offsprings don't even have to live under the consequences of the country that they create? That's very weird in every walk of life. I mean, it's just unexplainably weird, right? Now let's come to the US perspective on this. What does US think about the whole situation? So US was a very flourishing country. I'm saying was with full responsibility. US is no longer a place to be. US is no longer the country it used to be. Uh, it has a lot of problems. Now, why did those problems occur? Because in 1990s, or let's say late 80s, US, driven by the MBA types, the McKinsey types, began the process of offshoring, right? 1980s, 1990s. 1990s is when they brought in China in WTO, signed the agreement, and they effectively just voluntarily threw jobs away from US. Okay, they just threw jobs away every day, year on year, right? On one end, they imported people, on the other end, they threw jobs away, right? And not just manufacturing jobs, they didn't just close everything. So when they closed manufacturing units in the country, they said that Americans will go up the chain. They'll go up the chain. They'll go up the chain. As if the other people won't go up the chain, right? They'll just keep manufacturing the low end stuff. Somehow they had the naive worldview or a sinister worldview or a criminal worldview that they could go up the chain while the people that get all the manufacturing jobs, they'll stay where they are, right? But that clearly didn't happen. So they threw the jobs away, imported a lot of people. What happened to the entire, Rust Belt or the Midwest of the country? It just fell apart, right? They said learn to code, but even the coding jobs they gave away to countries, wherever they came from. So, if you a very good movie to watch on this or a book to read on this is called Primary Colors. Mike Nichols directed, John Travolta, Emma Thompson. Great movie, extraordinary movie. Uh, Now, their perspectives were very clean that these people have lower cost, so we cannot compete on cost. So that Primary Colors is on their perspective, what the ruling class of America thought while it was doing this, right? So an interesting perspective, but if you look at those perspectives and what they've yielded to America, these people are not very happy, right? They're not very happy. So they have a slang for Telugu people called gultis. So Telugu people are called gultis because that community has they've essentially gained notoriety because of their doings in America. They're known as a scamster community, right? Which is very sad. So whatever Indians have been doing in America, uh, taking jobs away, doing the work, scamming people, we don't have a good reputation there. So what does that country do? Essentially, right? What does it do when it has a trade war kind of a situation? When it's trying to stop the war, and India and China are amongst the people who are keeping the war alive in their eyes, right? Their domestic economy is in the toilet. The jobs data isn't great, right? People are getting imported. $5,000 is nothing, right? What do they do? What do they do? They're bringing manufacturing back, sure. What else can they do? They can cut back on immigration, right? So I I think I get where they're coming from, and I'm not happy for it because a lot of my friends are gonna be in trouble. Probably, I don't know somebody who's gonna be in trouble because of H1B, because there are a lot of immigration methods to go to US, right? There's H1B, there's H2B, there's L1, there's EB5. Now there's a gold card which these people have come up with, Trump gold card, right? So Trump gold card is about you invest $5 million and you get expedited citizenship with tax breaks and so on and so forth, right? So that's EB5. You invest $800,000 or $700,000 in America, and that way you can get citizenship, or let's say green card or whatever, right? So there's a lot of ways Indians uh, go to US, but H1B is definitely gonna hurt a lot of people. I know, indirectly or directly, right? Now, what I know for sure is that Indians are still gonna find a way. They're still gonna find a way, right? They're gonna fight it out in the courts. They're gonna find out different means of going to US, because these people, I mean, our people, we the people, are so pessimistic about India, or we really don't want to stay here, which is a problem which India needs to solve, right? So that is my perspective. How do you change the mindset where leaving the country isn't the best thing you can do to yourself, right? And where the hell did this American dream come from, right? Why do Indians have an American dream? Anyway, so that's my limited, very limited perspective. A lot of people can counter it, but hey, Indians don't have opportunities. Yeah, because they don't make investments in India, right? Uh, hey, Indians don't have. There's a lot of competition. Sure, sure, but is that competition like? Now that particular bit is slightly hard to counter. That Indians do have a lot of competition. America has like 43 people per square kilometer, 34 actually, 34, 43. China has 192 people per square kilometer. We almost have 175 people per square kilometer. We almost have 500 people per square kilometer. So we do have a lot of competition, right? But uh, does that does that mean that the country essentially has no future? That perhaps, and amongst the rich, right? Amongst the rich, that sort of sounds like a pretty difficult argument, but this is what it is. So Mr. Elon Musk had said that H1B is the most important uh, H1B is the most important thing that has led to many successful companies, right? And I will go on war, the kind of which you've never seen. And he used the F word, F your own face, because I'll go on war. But now he's silent, right? He's been made to shut up by the Trump administration. He doesn't have that pull anymore. So that's that. By the way, most companies that are actually getting people on H1B in America are not the Indian outsourcing guys. So number one is Amazon, 10,000 people in 2025. Number two is TCS, Microsoft at 5,000. Meta, Apple, Google, Cognizant, JP Morgan, Walmart, Deloitte, and so on and so forth, right? So a lot of US companies, foreign companies, are the ones who actually take people uh, uh, through H1B visas. So let's see what happens there. Total number of active H1B visas currently around 7 lakh, right? And people are saying that the active visas won't suffer. The new visas will have to be yeah. So now we come to what the second order effects of it are going to be. Second or third order effects, right? So Mr. Tiwari asks, what is the Indian dream equivalent of the American dream? So I think the Indian dream is also to get a job, buy a home, right? American dream is also to get a job, raise a family, buy a home. That was the American dream, the erstwhile American dream at least. Indian dream is the same. Uh, but Indian dream essentially, if you look at it realistically, is to go to US or Canada or Australia or Europe. That is the Indian dream, right? Indian dream is never living in India or buying a house or whatever. So Mr. Patil says another boost to GCCs. Now, what is going to happen with the H1B thing? If you're looking into the future, what do you see happening with the H1B visas? Right? Number one, GCCs are going to pick up at a faster pace than before. So global capability centers are going to pick up. More and more companies would be like speeding up, because what has happened is while America threw all the jobs away, Americans don't have that skill anymore, and Americans don't even want to work. So America is a total shithole right now, right? Americans don't have the skill. Americans don't have the will to work. They are just a dying civilization if you look at it. On SSRIs, loaded on fast food and drugs and so on and so forth. The entire youth is essentially washed away by fentanyl. So what future do those people have? They don't have anything, right? So even if they want to create jobs, even if they want to take these jobs, they won't be able to take them right away. They'll need a period of acclimatization, right? So the companies will have to turn to India and they will have to set up GCCs, even if they want to or they are forced to hire in America, right? They'll be like, okay, we'll train people in America, but there are not enough people in America who can work. We are very, very lazy class of people now, right? That's the peril of being the world leader for a very long time. Now, GCCs are gonna triumph. Uh, what do you think is gonna happen next? Indian IT is gonna go low. What do you think happens with the people who were going to US but have to stay in India, right? The job market will get a little flooded. There's gonna be a bit of a problem hiring, like people finding jobs, because the depth of the market will not be able to sustain all the influx of 3 lakh people, more than 3 lakh people. Now these people, when they come to the Indian job market, they will have some set of expectations, right? Because foreign return and whatnot. Now, what happens when the Indian job market gets flooded a little, right? Does do these people actually come to India, or they shift to Canada, or they shift to Europe, or they shift to Australia instead of coming to Canada? What do you think happens to these people? What percentage of these people will actually come to India back? Right? Let's say if there are 3,30,000 people going to US, how many of them will actually come back to India? That's a percentage. So if you look at that percentage, you can expect it like 20 to 30% of people will be forced to be in India, because of the rest of them will be very motivated to stay outside wherever it is, right? Be it Canada. Canada is easy, Europe, and so on and so forth. So if you look at it, there's gonna be a flux of 1.5 lakh people who have nowhere to go. That's about 50% of the entire janta, right? Will that actually have any impact as far as the job market is considered? Not really, not really, not really, not at all actually, right? So that'll be the concerns that Indian jobs will be problematic, because that's just unfounded. Now let's come to think of what will happen as a social effect of 1.5 lakh rich people staying in India. Does that mean there's gonna be heightened expenditure from these people? Definitely, because they come from affluent families. All that money was going out, right? Now it's gonna stick in. Another perspective which people have is that, oh, we're gonna lose out on remittances, right? Because Indians send a lot of money to India back, and that's pure money. That's $130 billion of remittance money. But what people don't say is that Indians spend about 70 to 80 billion on outside travel and outside establishment and education and so on and so forth. So at a net level, you're only making like 40 to 50 billion, or let's say 30 to 40 billion in remittances, right? Is that a good price for your rich and educated people to leave? I don't think so. So the remittance money is not going to be much of a problem, because a lot of it is going to be spent in India itself, right? So that isn't a problem. The problem might be because so these third order effects will be hard to let's say predict right now. Also, how possible is it that it's just a negotiating tactic of US against India? So when Mr. Piyush Goyal visits US tomorrow, or Mr. Modi visits Trump someday, right? How possible is it that Trump actually reverses this, right? How what is the percentage you'd like to allocate to the possibility that this will not stand, this executive order will get cancelled? Can you think of an answer? What is the percentage of people you think will actually, what's the percentage that this particular move is reversed? I'd give it a 20%, 30% shot. It's not very likely because this is a long term concern of US. So it's not like they want to move back. But there is a chance if India gives them a very good deal, they'll. But why would India give them a very good deal on this? Why would India beg for US to take its people away, to rich people, educated people away, right? So, not very likely, but not impossible that this thing gets reversed. Now, all of that is basically H1B, right? It doesn't make a lot of difference, to be honest. It's a nothing burger, to be honest. If you ask me, it's probably a nothing burger because there are a lot of ways to still go to US and Indians will find a way, right? If they are willing to fight a war, a foreign war, to actually move outside India, H1B banning isn't gonna cut it. Indian government will do everything to reverse this as all Babu kids want to live there. Wow, nice. Mr. Patil says Indian government will do everything to reverse this as all the Babu kids want to live there. Yeah, and when it comes to their kids, they know that India is what it is. And yeah, I get it. That's an interesting perspective. Very interesting, actually. So let's see what happens there. But we could move on from this story if I'm not missing out on anything. Right? A lot of it is also going to be US hospital. So a lot of Indian nursing staff and medical staff, essentially doctors, they go to US through H1B, right? And there's no way that they'll pay 90 lakhs to stay in US. So, or their employers will pay. So Indian healthcare, American healthcare will also suffer because of this particular claim. So let's see what happens there. That could be one of the factors, you know. Mr. Modi has said something very interesting. He has said, chips or ships, they must be made in India. So he's given a speech, right? And he said, the biggest enemy of our country, people will have different perspectives on who the biggest enemy is in our country. The biggest enemy is the impediment towards Atmanirbharta. He says, whether it be shipbuilding or whether it be chip building, you know, India needs to do it on its own because we need to be self-reliant. So he says, he threw some numbers, pretty interesting numbers. He said that shipbuilding was a very big industry, right? But in the previous years, we just let it go. And the impact of it has been about $70 billion. So he says, I'll just speak the numbers. Yeah. In the process, citing the example of shipping sector, he said that while 50 years ago, more than 40% of Indian trade was carried out on ships made in the country. So 50 years ago, he says 40% of Indian trade was carried out on ships made in the country. The sector fell victim to bad policies. In the process, the shipbuilding ecosystem in the country collapsed and the dependence on foreign ships became a compulsion. Adding that the result was that 95% of the trade in the country, country dependent on foreign ships, causing the country a major loss. Today, he said, India pays about $75 billion or 6 lakh crores to foreign shipping companies for services per year. So $70 billion is the national outgo on shipping, right? Services, making, and so on and so forth. And he says that we need to do that. We really need to do that. So shipbuilding is very necessary. That from Sunday, all major ports in the country would be freed from multiple documents and fragmented processes. The implementation of one nation, one document and one nation, one port will simplify trade. So that's what Mr. Modi says. Now, this is yet again a very good news for the defense sector, for the shipbuilding industry, for GRSE, for Mascot Dog, for all the coaching shipyards of the world. Right? This is very good news for Indian industry in general because shipbuilding creates a lot of jobs and it's a varied set of jobs. It hires a lot of mechanical engineers, a lot of construction workers, It's basically they've given it infrastructure status, right? So it's going to hire a lot of people, and it's very, very important for the country to have its own shipbuilding, especially because India has such a large coastline, right? We are a peninsular country, seventh largest in the world. It makes sense for us to make our own ships, but we don't make 5% of our own ships. How bad does that sound? By the way, this is not an isolated incident. America is also talking about making its shipbuilding great again. So they say make American shipbuilding great again, because American shipbuilding is in doldrums. It used to be great, not anymore. So it's one of the things that are especially going back again, right? So this is yet again a way for India to absorb talent. How do you absorb talent? You open up new industries, right? Now, if shipbuilding starts flourishing, if shipbuilding gets some sort of announcements as far as investments is considered, some money starts flowing in shipbuilding, what happens, right? People get hired. Now, this particular industry didn't exist at all. So, if you think about it, this industry didn't exist at all. Now it does, right? So it starts hiring people uh, like no place in history. This is exactly what happens with inland waterways as well, because it's not just the coast trade that the country is looking at. They want to use the Indian rivers also for ferrying stuff. I'm sorry, having some glare problems with the lens, but yeah. So this is gonna open a new avenue. Opening new avenues is gonna be very, very important for the country, because whatever India is gonna lose out on as far as tech is considered, IT is considered, it needs to find some footing, right? It could be shipbuilding, it could be chip building. What else it could be? It could be medical, it could be pharma, it could be medical instruments. Whatever it is, India needs to find a way, right? Moving on. Uh, Cost to company too high. We've talked about this. There's a lot of talks about GST cuts, adding fireworks to festive sales, automotive. We've talked a lot about this. So there's no surprise to us, and we won't talk about it unless somebody wants to listen. And today we don't have a lot of people, so I think it's fine. We can move on. Reliance to set up the first food park in Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh is setting a 768 crore site to house chocolate and snack plants. So Reliance Consumer, RCPL, the fast-moving consumer brand of RIL, is opening its first food park in Kurnool district, right? 40,000 crore. So the company's strategy is to invest 40,000 crore over the next 3 years to build integrated food parks across India. Now Reliance is really, really going heavy in the consumer business, consumer food business, which has a lot of second order effects as well, if you can think about it. Mr. Piyush Goyal is visiting US tomorrow. Let's see what he does. Moving on. US senators introduce India shrimp tariff legislation against imports. So it's not just US tech workers which have been buried. Indian shrimp has also been a problem, and they've already buried the shrimp industry with the whole 50% tariff. So the Indian shrimp guy says that you cannot kill what's already dead, right? So you've already killed us with the 50% tariffs. So even if you raise the duty and all, it's not going to affect much. So some numbers, the exporters pointed out that along with the blanket 50% tax that has been imposed by US on all imports from India, the shrimp industry has already been paying a countervailing duty of 5.7% and an anti-dumping duty of 2.65%. So 5.7, 2.6, right? It's about 8 point some percentages. So they're already paying it. We're already dead with the 50% import tax. If the India shrimp tax proposal to put additional tax, they really can't kill us more. And these people say that Indian shrimp is cheap, and Indian producers are saying that our labor is not that cheap anymore. So we are not fighting on a subsidy. It's just market forces. So everybody who said globalization was the way to go, they should eat shit, right? Because localization is the new globalization. And globalization, to be honest, wasn't the right thing to do anyway, right? To an extent. I mean, A guy who makes shoes is a guy who makes shoes. If you take his job away, because somebody in China can make shoes much cheaper, right? How does it fare well for that person, right? These are the unintended consequences of a loss of identity. They don't show up in a balance sheet, but they're important, right? So now they're getting it back. We shouldn't be surprised. Moving on, airlines reduce flights on India US routes amidst tariff woes. So that's a second order effect, right? Airlines are going to suffer because of the whole tariff play and the H1B play, because H1B guys were the ones who were using a lot of this. So it's going to be a bit of a problem. Swan Defense. Swan Defense signs a 4,200 crore pact with Gujarat Maritime Board. Heavy industry signed 4,200 agreement with Gujarat to modernize shipyards, boost supply chains, and so on and so forth. So a lot of action going to happen in the shipbuilding play. We should all look at some shipbuilding companies and consider them as good investments, because that particular industry, along with a few industries, so there are many industries which are going to go full bazooka, right? One is Satcom, one is the weight loss thing, one is what was the other one? We forgot, right? Which was going a lot. Nuclear. Then there's shipbuilding. Then there's defense is of course one. Some industries which are gonna suffer because of the weight loss thing. The food should be suffering. Fast food, packaged food, and so on and so forth. Alcohol should suffer, right? Basically, these kinds of consumption things should suffer, but some industries are really looking green. So they look like in a 3-year term period, they look like magical, right? Moving on, Auto Inc. takes multi-fuel powertrain drive. A rollout of GST to expected to accelerate this shift. So multi-fuel means petrol, diesel, CNG, electric, hybrid, and plug-in, right? So plug-in is the car which you charge. Hybrid is the one which doesn't charge. It's electric, but it charges itself with the run. So right now, the mix is, at the moment, the share of petrol, diesel, and CNG stood at 55.3, 18.2, and 19.6 during January to July 2025. So once again, petrol 55, diesel 18, and CNG 19. Okay, that's what the current status is. The GST thing is supposed to change it to petrol 51 from 52 from 55. So petrol falls, diesel 17 from 18, diesel falls very little, and CNG rises up to 21%. And EVs, plug-ins, hybrids, they're all gonna go 10%. So EVs are right now at 4%, right? And they are gonna, not counting hybrids. So total EVs right now are at 4.4%, but EVs, hybrids, and everything, that's gonna go 10%. And that's exactly what we predicted, or what essentially we didn't need to predict. Mr. Nitin Gadkari told us, right? Moving on. There's a very big, report that these guys have done on Shark Tank deals that have fallen apart. So a lot of deals that Shark Tank showed on the show, they didn't go forward because founders walked away. I think hybrid cars may be counted as petrol in this stat. No, they're actually counting it separately, Mr. Patil. So they're counting hybrids in a different way. I checked that. So they're counting plugins, hybrids, EVs as one. Right? Moving on. The Shark Tank thing, people have been accusing Shark Tank that it's more of a show thing than a do thing. So less of more of show. Well, that's happening, of course. Nobody should be surprised. A lot of deals that the investors offer at the show, they don't materialize because, they begin the due diligence after a while. So in one deal which Ritesh Agrawal invested in, the due diligence occurred like 3 months later. By then the whole deal had become irrelevant, right? So these people are essentially complaining, or let's say talking about how most of the conversation on Shark Tank is more towards advertising instead of investing. So Shark Tank US has a deal completion rate of 50%, and India is also amongst that, right? A lot of deals don't go forward. So if you look at the data, some numbers, founders walk away, sometimes the due diligence reveals problems, sometimes this and that. So let me throw some numbers for you. But at the same time, when they actually go online, go on air, that marketing blitz helps the companies a lot because it's equivalent to a marketing spend of like 5 to 7 crores, or at least 1 to 2 crores if it's going. So last season of Shark Tank didn't go on TV, due to which its reach was very, very limited. But this time it's going to be back on TV, and when it's back on TV, it's basically equivalent to a marketing spend or a PR spend of 5 to 7 crores, according to this report, right? That's what these founders are saying. I'm just trying to find the completion rate number, which I should have marked. That would have been easier. But yeah, in the US, the deal closure rate in Shark Tank is 50%, less than 50%. In India, according to news reports, more than half did not go through, right? So more than half. So India has about like 40%, which is okay, which is not bad. At least you got the buzz, right? The internet buzz. Moving on. There's a lot of talk about democracy and how social media is very well linked with democracy. They're talking about how Nepal had democracy problems when they tried to ban social media, and I call BS. A lot of it is just covert operations by foreign forces, right? It's no coincidence that so many governments just fell down because of democracy issues. Democracy. Anyway, moving on. Miss Arundhati Roy has come out with a new book, right? Memoir. I have read. Have you read God of Small Things? Well, I read God of Small Things. It was a piece of shit, man. It was a total piece of shit. It made me regret knowing how to read English, right? Now that book was perhaps it won the Booker Prize or something, but it was a total piece of shit. I challenged people. So I met somebody, and I met a girl, and I was, when I was there, I saw God of Small Things, and I saw that book, and I said, "Hey, have you read God of Small Things?" Or, I asked something, and she said, "Yeah," and I like, "How do you like it?" And she said, "It's amazing." Arundhati Roy, so she was probably a lefty, but that's okay. So she didn't know that I had read the book. So then I asked, "What was your favorite part?" And then she was like, right? Because she hadn't read the book herself. So a lot of these books, which are so revered, right? People haven't really read those books, man. Now, I had read just because I wanted to know exactly what. So when I used to sit amongst these intelligentsia folks, they used to talk about books, and now I have always been a very big reader, right? 52 books in a year. I did that for 11 years. So I was like, I want to read these stuff, man. This stuff that they're talking about. And then when I actually went and read that stuff, right? And I didn't, a lot of books I just didn't understand, or when I understood, I couldn't really appreciate them. But the revelation that wasn't surprising, because if you're reading like a 120-year-old book, you can't actually relate to the language of it, right? But the beauty was that when I went back to those people, I found out that they hadn't read the book. They hadn't really read the book, man. So then I asked her, like, "Hey, what was your favorite part?" I opened the book. The bookmark was at 30th page. And I'm like, "Oh, you're reading it?" "Well, yeah. How are you liking it?" "Yeah, it's great. It's beautiful." "What's your favorite part?" And then you know what she said after that? That I'm rereading it, actually. So I was like, okay. Now I knew, and she knew that I knew that she hadn't read the book. Now it was totally on me whether I should take it up, I should keep rolling it, or I should just step back. So I chose to step back, because it's not fun, right? After a point.
to be an asshole, there's a very sweet spot that you can be an asshole up to this point. After that, it just becomes annoying. So most of the times I cross that line, but sometimes I choose to stay there. But yeah, it was hilarious. So very, very terrible book, God of Small Things, a total piece of shit. Anybody who says they've read God of Small Things, right? You just read God of Small Things yourself and then mock that person because they deserve that. Mr. Patil says, like Scott Sir said in the book, don't be an asshole. Yes, yes. So I try to, follow. But it's just, Mr. Patil, how do you blame me? Do you blame me for this? I mean, can I be literally blamed for being an asshole here? If people are pretending to read books they haven't, right? And pretending to pawn off some sort of wisdom that they haven't. Uh, See, I've read the book. It's so amazing, man. Uh, so one other book which I didn't like was Midnight's Children. And I'm like, man, I wish I hadn't read this book. I wish I didn't know how to read English, right? Oh God. But I otherwise like the person. I like Mr. Salman Rushdie. But that book was terrible. Moving on. Cyber attack has disrupted European airport ops. And by the way, Midnight's Children is a Booker of Bookers. So it's won the Booker of Booker award. Whew. Moving on. And I've not met a single person who's actually read that book in full, by the way. Right? Books have become social posturing. Books are totally social posturing. Books are not for reading these days, of course, because nobody has time to read. But books are for social posturing, and they're also for decoration. So books are very good tools of decoration. So they look really pretty, right? So if you look at this is very pretty, right? So they add that decor value. So even if somebody doesn't read at all, it makes sense to have books lined up. They have some sort of colors that they add to the wall, which is very nice, right? So that's why books have found relevance. By the way, Mr. Woody Allen is coming out with his first novel at age 90. He's gonna be 90 years old in November 30 or something, and he's gonna come out with his first novel at age 90, which says, "What's with Bomb?" So he said that you're not looking at making movies anymore. He says, "I've made 50 movies, and movies don't have the charm that they used to. Now they release the movie as a favor to you for 2 weeks in a theater, and it doesn't really do it for me. So movies have lost the charm, but I'm interested in plays and I'm interested in books. So I'm happy that I'm being able to write this book." Now, what does this say about Nassim Taleb's Lindy effect, right? Lindy effect said that whatever has been going on for a very long time will go on for that particular period. So if something has been around for 100 years, the probability of it sticking around for 100 more years is very, very high. So what has stayed will stay. What is new will fade. That's Lindy's effect. So movies are clearly fading, right? You can argue that. Movies are clearly fading. Books are here to stay. Books are staying, right? Despite whatever is happening because of decorated value or social posturing or whatever. Does that mean newspapers are gonna stay? Because newspapers have been around for a very long time, right? And I find a lot of value in newspapers. Clearly, you know that. So will newspapers stay? Because TV has fallen. TV is falling. Newspapers not so much. So what do you see there? Lindy's effect playing out, right? Moving on. There's a lot of action on Gaza-Ukraine wars raging. UN braces for Trump address. Let's see what happens there. After Trump's call on TikTok, China maintains stance on company's US future. As we know, TikTok, the company of geopolitical relevance, it's very solid, right? And China is saying that we are looking at that. They've not really approved it. They've not really, like given a go ahead, but they're not saying no. So China's TikTok deal is definitely done. It's crazy that US will agree to buy TikTok without its algorithm. So they said the algo it will be controlled by TikTok, which I find very very amusing. So let's see what happens there, right? Interesting time for TikTok, definitely. Moving on. Uh, these people have done a showcase on Mr. Robert Redford. Well, I had suggested you a few movies. I hope you enjoyed them. Old Man and a Gun, Horse Whisperer, Chris Show, Speakers, All the President's Men, of course, we talked about, The Way We Were, and so on. Moving on. So that's pretty much it, folks. Slow day for news, except for the H1B play. A lot of stuff happening around that. Nothing really big happening. Tomorrow, the stock should. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow with the stock market? Do you think IT is going to be have a bad day? Of course. What else is going to pick up? It will be very interesting to analyze the second and third order effects of this, right? At least on the capital markets. At least on the capital market. How is US market gonna react to this is also a very big question. Because 9 out of 10 companies which are taking all the H1B people are American companies, right? So is it gonna lead to a share price fall of Meta, Google, Amazon, and so on and so forth? Very likely. Because they'll have to do something. What will they do? Right? They can't pay H1B like 100K. It's almost as much as the salary that they're paying. So US market should definitely see a fall. Mr. Patil writes, US market should see a fall, definitely. And especially the tech market, right? Mr. Bhuvanyu Sharma says not likely. What do you say? What is not likely, Mr. Sharma? Can you clarify? What do you mean by not likely? But yeah, US market should definitely fall, I think. What else should happen? Indian IT will fall, US market will fall, definitely. US tech will fall. Can anybody rise? Can anything rise up because of this? I'm thinking of things that can actually rise up because of this. Consumption stock should go up, right? Because H1B is not coming out, like the money won't flow outside. So maybe the consumption stock should look good. Real estate, Indian REIT, okay, Real Estate Investment Trust, that should go up. That should start looking green. Is that what you're saying? I'm still, real estate overall. I don't think real estate is actually going to gain because a lot of real estate action in India happens because of these NRIs. You know that? So my friend, he's a sales guy in real estate, one of my friends, very good friends. So he tells me that a lot of real estate action is happening not by Indians. It's actually happening from people outside. So definitely it's not good news for real estate. Absolutely not. Yeah, so we'll have to calculate. Mr. Tiwari says there was an update on REIT to treat as equity. Oh, we discussed this, Mr. Tiwari, many times. So real estate investment trust, it's treated as equity. That's why it's going to have a secondary market. You remember that discussion? We had a very deep discussion on we saw this developing over months. So we said that these people have some money problem and right now it's all primary capital. But when that thing gets treated as on par with equity, it starts getting a lot of buzz, right? Secondary market makes it easy for them to raise money, or let's say for the asset to get transferred to other people. So it becomes a stock, right? So that becomes very good. So we've had many deep discussions on it, very long deep discussions on it. I hope you remember. So yeah, that should be it, right? This is intelligence, right? If you could just figure out. It got a SEBI nod recently. We've talked about this. Do you not remember? We've had multiple discussions on this. The REIT thing. Why SEBI gave it a nod. We discussed the whole journey of it, right? The problems that it was discussing, then the money thing, then the secondary market transaction, and then the secondary market, and it just yesterday or day before, I guess it happened finally. So, right, uh, we've discussed this. I'm just thinking of some weird ways where we could actually benefit from this news, right? If at all we can. Well, I'll have to think about it deeply. Might have missed Mr. Tiwari. Oh, you did? I hope you don't have any. You can go back to any of the episodes. You'll see that the reason why they did that was that money was a bit of a problem, right? The infrastructure money raising was a big problem, real estate, and they it was a big priority because 100 million new homes were to be built in this country itself, right? Now if 100 million homes were to be built, and money, you there's a limit to what you can do. So what they started doing was they had this REIT thing, right? InvITs, REITs. So what they thought of doing was giving them some sort of secondary capital, that is securitization of that investment. What that means is securitization of that investment leads to, so you have raised money. If you treat it at par as equity, it can be traded, and other people can step in. So that was the deal. And we talked about numbers as well. Mr. Patil says Indian hotel industry rises. You're very right, Mr. Patil. It is already has momentum, and these people coming back will need five-star properties. Makes sense. But why will they need five-star properties? They are Indians, right? They were going on visa, so they have homes here. They won't be staying at properties. They will be going home. But what it could lead to was that a lot of US people will need to come here and actually set things up in India, some sort of GACC play. So Indian hotel industry will definitely have a rise in times to come. So that is a no-brainer. You're right. You're 100% right. But I don't see how this is that connected to what we are talking about right now. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Let me think. The job market. How does the job market get affected, and what can you do about it, right? If the job market is getting affected, if the job market is getting hurt, right? Career transitioning companies will gain, like right management, but unfortunately they're not listed, so we can't make much use of it. Edeco, Team Lease, these kinds of Naukri companies like Naukri might see a rise, right? Because all of these people will actually have to look for jobs, and they'll actually need some paid assistance when it comes to finding jobs. So companies like Naukri might benefit. So they sell to companies which are not hiring as much, or let's say GCCs which are hiring, but they also sell to people who are wanting to get jobs, right? So I think this is a good news for Naukri. Won't they be hired directly in GCC? No, there's nothing directly. Nothing happens directly. So there's a lot of play, right? Most of my friends who came back working like that here. Yeah, but there's a lot of transitioning period, right? The period of search, the period of getting hired. There's a 2 month, 3 month kind of a latency as far as a person who's wanting to get hired is considered. So that definitely affects everything, right? Hmm. Yeah, that's what I think. Infrastructure is definitely going to pick up because of so real estate should be up. GCCs will be up. Yeah. So we'll think about it. Let's think about it. Let's take some time. Let's draw out a few things, and we should write it. So we have this thing on. I recently saw on YouTube. There's a section called community, right? Where you can actually write a post. Like even the viewers of Thinkers Frequency can write posts. So that's very convenient. I'll write whatever I think about. If you have something, you write, and we'll have a deep discussion on that, right? I mean, think about things to punt. With that out of the way, we come to the end of the 119th episode of Thinkers Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis, right before we punch in. It's 9:05. We are ending early today. It's time for us to punch in. I hope you have a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Have a nice day. Bye.